You have an idea, but do you have a television series? We're going to explore that concept today and figure out what your television series is truly about and what it's truly trying to say. I'm JT Baylor, the rockstar screenwriter, a filmmaker who's written several short films that have aired in film festivals, done animated series, written television scripts, as well as film screenplays. I know a lot about story and I'm here to help you. First off, let's get right into it. First off, let's get right into it and figure out. You're writing a television series, which means you need to develop your first episode. That is your pilot. So we need to establish this first. A pilot is not a movie. Let's get this established first. A television pilot is not a movie. It's not a movie. A movie has to entertain you for 2 hours and then they're done. Wham, bam, thank you, ma'am. It's over. Unless it's a series of movies, then it's a franchise, and that's a whole nother ordeal. A television pilot has to entertain you as well as lay down the foundation and the rules for the entire series. It lays down all the little roots that the series is going to explore in the future episodes and seasons. A pilot is created to entertain you for more than 100 episodes. A lot of television pilots are set up for the season to run for 100 episodes. You know, you can look at a show like Supernatural, where it's basically two brothers hunting down demons and killing them. And the original creator wrote the episode to literally run 5 seasons, he said, and that's 100 episodes. So, as you know, Supernatural has run well beyond 100 episodes, but that's the exact framework that it was set up for, 5 seasons, and it's done exceedingly, and I think it's done, 13 seasons now? How many seasons has it done? With that being said, you have to know, what is my pilot truly about? Is it an idea or is it a television series? Sometimes you watch a television show that has a great pilot or a great first episode, and then right after that the show kind of just sinks because the idea was really developed just for like that one idea, and then anything after that just kind of, the writer like really didn't think beyond that. It happens all the time. A show I can think in modern history that like had a really, really great and a strong pilot and a great concept was The Following with Kevin Bacon. Really strong pilot, made you ask a ton of questions, but then beyond that, the story just started getting so convoluted, so jumping the shark in a sense, you know, it stopped making sense, honestly. And I actually tuned in every Monday on Fox for like 3 seasons. After the first one, it was 2 painful seasons, but I still did it because I'm a Kevin Bacon fan. Bacon had a long time dispute with this guy who's on death row. He caught him. He was like a serial killer of women, and he was killing women with the what was it? He's a serial killer of women. And Kevin Bacon caught him before, but somehow these people keep mimicking his murders while he's still on death row. And turns out the guy started a cult, and the cult's killing a bunch of people, killing them the way that this serial killer was killing people. So he's basically built a cult following, and Kevin Bacon now has to catch the guy he caught before as well as the new killers. And it's a great pilot. You don't know, a lot of twists, a lot of turns. You don't really know what's happening. And then the season starts, and then it gets crazier and crazier and crazier and crazier. And then it just gets so crazy, you just go like, this is dumb. You know, like it just loses itself. And that's because the idea was really developed as a movie or a short series. It wasn't developed for 22 episodes, and then that was the problem, is that, or 12 episodes, I think the seasons ran for 12 episodes, and then beyond that, you had 2 more seasons of that, and it just got dumber and dumber each season because the show really just completely lost itself. And that's what you don't want to do with your series. You want to lay down the foundation and the roots for other seasons to come, and other storylines and conflicts and characters, and you want to really, really dig deep and figure out what all that is and how can I lay down the foundation in the first episode. Pilots are created to entertain you for not only that hour, but for the next 100 hours following it. So when developing your pilot, you have to think beyond the first episode. You need to be developing for the next 100 episodes realistically. You're laying down the fruits, the character, the conflicts, setting. You're supposed to make the audience ask a bunch of questions, and they really have to want to join your world. You know the world in your head, but can you convey it in a sexy enough way to where I'm asking myself questions and then I'm going to sit there and wait week after week for your show to air. One framework that works is to remember that a pilot isn't about story. It's truly about conflicts. What are the conflicts I'm going to be exploring? Now, keep in mind that a television series isn't a serialized novel. It's not chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's a series of conflicts that your character is going through that sum up one story. But each villain will change. So it's not like one big story. It's a bunch of mini stories. It's each episode a different villain. So Law and Order, for instance. It's not one criminal committing all these crimes and they keep solving it every week. It's a bunch of different villains every week that are solving it, and the B story is usually the detectives and what's going on in their life. Okay, so when I say conflicts, what exactly am I talking about? Okay, so conflicts drive your story forward, and it also drives the internal struggle of your characters forward. So the first type of conflict is going to be the villain or the outside force. So let's just use Law and Order SVU as an example, because that's a show that's run for 20 plus seasons and literally has very strong conflict still to this day. And the main conflict on the series, week to week, victims of sexual assault and the bad guys who are out there doing the sexual assault. So the criminals. So that's the first type. That's the criminals. That's the obvious conflict. But there's a second type of conflict that drives the series forward. This is the one where we learn about our characters, why they do what they do, who they are. And in SVU, you have Olivia Benson, and she's a victim of sexual assault. So that's why you have a lot of cops that come through the SVU department and they go, I can't do this anymore. I can't talk about rape every week. But you have Olivia who takes it personally, and she's literally solving her mom's case because her mom was raped, and she's literally a product of rape. And that's why all the cases are so personal to her. Because I always wondered, I was like, why can this show go so long? How come she could talk about rape every week? This is pretty rough stuff. But then when you break it down like that, then she has to work through her own personal struggles of being a product of rape, her mom going through sexual assault. And every time she locks up a criminal, she's literally, in her head, locking up her father. So she's working through a very, very personal struggle and a conflict that can be explored for 20 plus seasons. That's what drives her, and that's what makes the audience want to see her, go at each case so hard. That's why sometimes you'll watch an episode and you'll go, why isn't she lackadaisical? I mean, she's seen this crap so many times, but she takes each case as personal as the last because she's solving her mom's case. Olivia being a product of sexual assault makes each case that much more personal to her. So when she solves a case that is personal to her, which is every week, but sometimes a case that might be like duplicate to what happened to her, the show will delve deep into her emotional experience and talk about how she's coping with it, being a product of sexual assault. So in a sense, she's kind of battling with her own demons and kind of trying to be a good product of sexual assault. It's really like her way of giving back. She may not verbalize it, but that's what she's trying to do. That's the inner tug inside of her that drives her forward. Okay, now that you know about conflicts, it's really going to want to make you take your idea, go back, harden it up just a little bit by asking yourself, what is my show about? What is your show truly about? And to figure that out, you need to explore a very, very important idea. And that is, what is the theme of your series? Now, a show that I think has a really good theme that is a great example would be the series Frasier, the 90s sitcom. So if you never watched the show Frasier, it's about Dr. Frasier Crane. He moves to Seattle. He's recently divorced. He's moving from the Boston area to Seattle. He's got a radio show, and he's a new bachelor in town. He lives in a sexy penthouse. But his life changes when his father, who he doesn't really get along with, retired policeman, he was shot in the hip, and he's getting old. He keeps falling, so he has to move in with his son, Frazier, with his dog, and his new move-in nurse. So Frazier goes from being a sexy bachelor with a nice radio show to a live-in father who he doesn't get along with, a nurse and a dog. All this is put on top of him, and Frazier has to roll with the punches, and that's what the series theme is truly about. It's about how are you going to evolve when life throws curveballs at you? How will you face it and grow? And I think that you see that in a lot of different episodes as they work on their relationships in further episodes. There's an episode later on, like in season 8, because the show went well over 100 episodes. You see it in there's an episode where the father, Martin Crane, he turns 65, and they buy him the horse that he used to ride as a cop that rides the horse. I forget the name, like deputies or something. They bought the horse, and the horse was literally put out to pasture. And Martin, that's exactly how he feels, being 65, he's old, he has to get around on a cane. He feels like he's literally put out to pasture as well. So he has to kind of come to terms with that and come to terms with where he's at in life. And that's when I noticed that this is the underlying theme of the whole series. So you need to figure out what are the questions that are constantly being faced for your characters, to where they're going to explore it week after week after week, and then keep the audience members tuning in. Other examples of the theme would be Niles coming to terms that his marriage isn't working. He needs to divorce his wife. Roz gets pregnant and she decides to keep the baby, but the father is like too young. He's like a 20-year-old barista, and he needs to live his own life. So Roz decides to keep the baby. And what that means, being a single mom in Seattle, how would that change her life? And how would she embrace it? Those are the type of questions that are being placed on the character, and you see it as an audience member, and you start to like the characters, and you roll with them on their journey through life. Last but not least, we need to ask the question, what is a strong conflict for your series? And the way to figure out the strongest of strong conflicts for your series is you need to ask your questions. You need to ask your characters very, very hard questions, and they need to have like need to have like 2 outcomes, and they need to be like drastically different. So say you have a series like Breaking Bad. You have Walter White, who has cancer, he's getting ready to die, and he decides, fuck it, I'm just gonna cook meth, man. I'm just gonna cook meth. Like, I'm the smartest person I know, I'm just gonna cook meth. I'm just gonna cook meth, I'm gonna make as much money as I can, and if I die, I die, or once I die, I'm gonna leave my family a fortune. So once he makes that decision, he goes from being the broke chemistry teacher he was currently at to a starter drug dealer. He's made a hard decision. He's decided, I'm not going to just go off and die. I'm going to live. So when he goes down this path to becoming a drug dealer, then he makes the decision, you know what? I think I want to be the biggest drug dealer I possibly can be. You know what? I'm going to be the biggest drug dealer in Arizona. So once he makes that decision, what does that look like? What will he do to keep his status as becoming, or going up the ranks to become, the biggest drug dealer in Arizona? Those are all decisions that he has to make. Each decision is an episode. Each decision that we watch becomes an episode, and the juicier the decisions, the sexier the episodes, the more we tune in for the more conflict, drama, and the more theme that we run into. So with all that information about your series, the conflicts, we know that a pilot is not a movie. We know that we need to have strong conflicts in our series. And what is the show about? It's about the theme. So we need to figure out a strong theme. And then once we figure out the theme, that'll allow us to get a stronger conflict to give our characters for more juicy episodes, which give an even better series overall. So now that you know all that information about how to create a strong conflict for your television series, how would that help empower your series? Leave a name or leave a comment in the comment section below, and we can talk about your series and see, punch it up and make it stronger than it possibly can be. Thank you for your time. I'm JT Bailey, the Rockstar Screenwriter. To be a writer, you need to have a ton of ambition, so go out and conquer, my friend. Go out and conquer.